Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. So I know previously I had mentioned that I had more D&D figures to take a look at this week. That was before a couple of ladies showed up at my house over the weekend. If you saw the short that I put up this past weekend, I got a shipment in that had both Psylocke right here and the reissue of Pandora from Valaverse Action Force. And that's kind of taking precedence. We got 3 figures that we're going to be taking a look at this week that pretty much makes this Ladies Week here on the channel. And we're going to be starting off with this one, the Marvel MAFEX Psylocke X-Men comic version. I love this image right here, that like this is totally like the 90s upper corner logo of like an X-Men comic. I love that. I have been wanting this version of Psylocke for a while now. This hand ninja body swap version of her. I've been wanting a quality figure of this for a while, and I'm sorry, the ones that Marvel Legends have been putting out just haven't been cutting it. And I was looking at this figure. I was probably going to be pulling the trigger on this figure on the secondary market because the price of her kept going up and up and up. And then lo and behold, we got a re-release of her, and I just jumped on it. I pre-ordered her. I got her in, like I said, this past weekend, time of recording, and I can't wait to open this one up. So like I said, this is Psylocke. It's either Betsy in Body Swap or Quanah after she took on the mantle. Either way, it's hand ninja version, and I love this. And I love all of like the cell shading purple up front that like just totally goes with her. We got a great figure shot down here. Of course, we have the open window that shows you the figure, all of the accessories, well, most of the accessories, along with the alternate head. Up top, Psylocke, comic, like that Jim Lee image of her. On the side, a great image of the figure in action, along with the X logo. And once again, that Jim Lee look on her. On the back, we have some great photos of her in action, along with all of the accessories, the 2 different head sculpts, how things go together. Over here, great shot, Psylocke on the bottom, whole bunch of stuff that nobody bothers to read. So honestly, I just want to get this open. So without further ado, let's take a look at Marvel MAFEX Psylocke. Okay, so here she is, Psylocke out of the box, and putting the tape measure to her, we can see that she is pretty much 6 inches dead on to the top of her head. Now before we go any further, let's just get this out of the way. This is the version of Psylocke that I had before. This is the Psylocke from the Nimrod 3-pack. And even though it's not her classic uniform, or rather her classic hand uniform, this is basically the same body that Marvel used between the 2 different looks. And I was never a fan of this mold, of this sculpt. Like, the whole thing just looks off to me. Yeah, she's a little bit taller than the MAFEX one, but I feel like her proportions are all off. She looks too lanky, she looks too gangly, her fists are too big, her head sculpt is definitely too big, and always seem to have like that jutting chin forward stance. Now, I don't know how this compares to the one that just came out last year, I think it was, with the X-Men teams. She was in a 3-pack with like the yellow and blue X-Men uniforms on, but that wasn't the look for Psylocke that I was looking for anyway. So that's why I always wanted this one. Well, I shouldn't say always, but that's why I wanted this one more than this one. Maybe I was being too picky, but this is very much, even just looking at it, a superior figure than what Marvel Legends Hasbro put out. Now, before we talk about anything else, can we just talk about the face sculpt on her right here? This is a fantastic face sculpt. This is a fantastic portrait. I absolutely love this. While this isn't, I don't feel personally that this is an exact replica or representation of the way she was drawn in the comics in the 90s, but truthfully, I don't think that way that she was drawn, that sort of like that Jim Lee style that she was drawn in, I don't think that would have translated very well into action figure form, mainly because she basically wouldn't have had any eyes, if you remember how she was drawn during those early appearances in X-Men, you know, when X-Men Volume 2 came out. I think this is like a really good look for her, though, with those arched brows, that furrowed look, that just that like really, it's a neutral face, like it's a neutral look, but like it's very intense. This is a woman that means business. She's an assassin. This is really great. And then you have this huge mane of hair right here, her purple hair with this black wash in it, so that like all of these stand out. And man, do I love that. And then we have the shiny blue of her uniform right here, her ninja uniform. And this is fantastic. This metallic blue going on. This is great. Like, I'm not saying this looks like representation of the comic book that jumped right off the page, but this, I think, especially for the way that she was drawn, that 90s style, this is a really, really good look for her, and I love it. You even have the ringlets on the fingers right here, holding her sleeves, gloves, whatever on. I really like that. Then you have the sash as the loose piece, and that can be replaced, and we'll take a look at that later. But all the way down, I love this figure from top to bottom. Now, looking at the articulation, that she does do a full 360 head rotation, but you saw that big mane of hair really gets in the way. It also gets in the way when she's trying to look up, but she can really look down and tuck the chin, and I will show you why, because the dumbbell joint on here is angled back so that when she leans forward, she really tucks in right there, and that will come more into play during action poses with her secondary head sculpt, I feel, and we will take a look at that. We will take a look at that once we get to accessories. Let me get this back on there. There we go. That's the only thing that, like, whenever we get like a bent stem like that, I'm always worried like I'm going to bend it or break it even more. But she also has some really good head tilt side to side. We saw that with like the MAFEX Cyborg Superman. Arms will do a full 360. She has a really good butterfly joint going on. Her arms come up to just under 90, not the full way up. A little bit more, not the full way up. She has a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows with some decent travel. And then she has the swivel hinge swivel that they can turn. They can do this, and then you can do that. And then they'll come in and out. Getting her arms up out of the way, we can see that she has this cut right here that she can really crank back, but if you go too far back, you'll start to see the gap, the ball gap right there. She can come forward, she has side to side, and she can do a little bit of rotation right there, but because of the mold, she kind of gets hung up that if I tried to turn her anymore, I feel like I would start to stretch and maybe separate the body piece. Down here, though, at the waist, the ball joint at the waist, she can do a full 360. She gets some more tilt back. She gets a lot more tilt forward. But once again, you go too far, you'll start to see the gap right here and the socket. And she can do some real good side to side. Once again, with the caveat that if you go too far, you'll start to see the separation in there. Legs come up very well. Go back very well. Unfortunately, don't come out to the side nearly as much as I would like. For a ninja, I would really love for her to be able to get them like full split, full out to 90. No thigh cut. There's sort of that hidden ball joint. Like I've said before, nobody does it better than NECA so far. Double jointed knees with some really good travel. No boot cut, but the ankle does swivel. Ankle rocks back. Ankle rocks forward. Forward-facing pin for rocker, and of course, toe articulation. Out of the packaging, Psylocke has a pair of open hands. She comes with a pair of clenched fists. She comes with a pair of splayed-out hands. She comes with a pair of two-fingered powered hands, but there's a peg right here in the palm of them, and we'll see what those are used for in a moment when we get to accessories. And finally, she has the ones that I'll be leaving on her the most, her weapon-wielding hands. And like what we've seen before with MAFEX, each set of hands is kept on their own sprue for safekeeping. So now that we've taken a look at her hands, let's take a look at some of the other swappable parts here that we can pop her head off and put her secondary head sculpt on here. And that fits on just like so. And this is her I'm going to kill you face. This is her battle face. This is another great face sculpt that they've done with her. I like that you can actually see the difference in the teeth in there, that they've actually gone in and there's line work done for the teeth rather than just being like one line separating it and then just some bright white for the chompers. We also have like, you know, her hair coming off in this battle pose right here. She can't really look up any better because she still has this right here, but like she can really do some tuck work with her hair that like whenever we get into flips and everything, that will come in real handy. And I think this is a great look. I'm honestly not sure which one I like better. Like I think both of them. I think this one could be used for battle as well, but like the dynamic flow of the hair, like even just the way that like this accidentally happened with like the tilt to her body and the hair going, like that just looks like that's an action shot right there. And I think that looks great. Something else that we have that can be changed out is you can pop off her torso piece right here. And then this comes off. And then you have this piece right here, which is her sash. And once again, there's some action posing to it with the tassels coming off to the side. But it also holds her katana scabbards in place. And that looks great. That you just pop it on the torso like so. And then you just pop this back together. And there you go. The tassels and the hair going in the same direction, giving it some real dynamic action. And I think this is great. I can't remember if this is how she actually sheathed them in the comic, because I thought whenever she did have a katana, it was just slung across her back and then she had her side blade. This may be later when Quanah took over. I know I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong. Sorry about that. But this may be when Quanah took over and she went to a two-sword style. I'm not 100% certain on that. But I can guarantee that this is probably how I'm going to be posing her on the shelf most of the time with the scabbards on and probably with this head sculpt. But that's a discussion for later. Let's take a look at the rest of her accessories. And the first thing we're going to take a look at is that she does come with a separate set of scabbards for her katana, because as you can see, you have those ones that are on her sash, but then you have these ones that if you would want to pose her either holding the scabbards, either putting them on a weapons rack if you have a weapons rack, or if you just want them separate from her, maybe carrying one individually, you have that option. Options are always good. I think this is pretty cool. They have a real nice lacquered look to them. I really dig that. I like whenever they're shiny. But there's something else that's kind of interesting, and we've seen this before, at least I have with the Bandai Demon Hunter figures, that these hilts right here, they're not real blades that you see. They just pop out, and it's basically just a pop-in accessory of a sword handle, a sword hilt, into a very thin socket within the scabbards. They do this so that the scabbards aren't oversized, trying to hold the swords that come with them, the katana that come with them. But these sword hilts, you can also take out and pop into the scabbards that are on her sash, so it can look like that she's also wearing them sheathed as well. Focus. That she's wearing them sheathed as well right there. See that? I like that. I dig that. I think that's a cool idea. I like whenever the companies do that. Like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate it whenever you can sheath the weapon and take the weapon out. But I think this is a real nice way of not making these oversized and making them look right. Because a lot of times, the scabbards, especially at this scale, just look too oversized, like comically oversized, because you're trying to fit a sword in there. Or you do something kind of like what Classified does sometimes, where it's not really a scabbard, it's part of the backpack, or it's just like clips that you slide the sword into. I think this is a real nice, something like this. I think this is a real nice compromise of getting like scabbards scaled correctly along with swords that aren't too thin. And speaking of swords, that of course brings us to the twin katana that she comes with, and these look fantastic. I love the gold around the cross piece. I forget what they're actually called on katana. I really love the gold around the cross piece and the pommel, and I love the wraps. I love the detail on the wraps with those gold diamonds in there. I think that looks fantastic. And then the blades, with this silver paint right here, this silver paint job right here. I think they look great. Like, even just look at the way that they're catching the light from my lights. Like, they're gleaming, and that looks awesome. But if we take a scabbard right here, let's put this up. If we take this scabbard, you can see that pretty much, like, realistically, that could fit in there, okay? But manufacturing-wise, the walls of a scabbard like this would be so thin that, like, it would be so brittle to be able to get it to slide in there that, like, it may not survive even the transportation. So I get why they do that, and I think that's really cool. And I also love how there's really no difference between the pop-in hilts and the ones that she comes with. And then these also, whoops, the hand popped off. And then these also just look fantastic. Oh, let's get it in there. It's a little bit of a tight fit. And you can see there's not a large peg. And they just sort of slide on. They don't pop on and off. They just sort of sit on there like Mezco 112. But they're scaled great for her. And you can see she has a real good grip on them. So I love these. I love these. I love these. I think this looks great. I think this looks fantastic. Now, in addition to her katana, she has these effect pieces right here, which of course are her focused totality of her telepathic powers. Her psi blades, basically. And these aren't something that snaps onto her existing hands. If you'll notice, there are hands inside these pieces, that these are individual hand sculpts themselves. So you just pop one off, and I don't know if you can really easily tell. Okay, I think that one is the left hand. And then it just pops right on there, and voila. She has her psi blade, which you, of course, cannot see against my background. I like this. I think this looks really cool. I think this is a lot better than just something that pops on an existing fist, because they were able to sculpt it more closely to the hand by just making it a hand accessory. So I dig that. I really like that. And of course, she does come with two of them, but in the time I was reading, I only ever remember her forming one on the left hand, and then she would have the sword in the right, or she would have no sword and just the psi blade popping out of her right hand. In addition to that, we have these psi power effect pieces too, which these are basically psychic punches. I like how you can see where at the point of impact it's sort of like whited out, but you can also see once again, there are hand pieces down there, way down in there. So I don't think it really matters which is which, but I still like to try and figure out which is which, because I don't think there's any kind of marking that indicates what it is, but I'm pretty sure this is the right one. And then once again, we just pop the hand off, and then we take the piece, and it fits down over the arm like so. And there you go. She has these two pieces. So you have a lot of effects options for Psylocke. And we're not done, because there's one more, and it kind of made me question something. So in addition to those two effect pieces, we have these two discs right here, sort of a circular representation of the focused totality of her telekinetic powers. But there's really only one set of hands that these can work with, because, once again, I don't know if you can see because it blends in so well with my background, but there is a socket right here on the back side, and we know she has these hands right here that have a peg, and that's what you use them for. You peg the effect right there into her hand. And I question why with the other effects, the hand is molded into the effect, and this one, it's not. It's two separate pieces. Because truthfully, there's really only one thing you can use these hands for, since they have that peg right in the middle of them. I'm kind of surprised they just didn't do the same trick with this that they did with the other pieces as well. Don't get me wrong, I like it. I think this looks cool. I'm down with having more Psylocke effects. It just made me wonder. And then, as with the other MAFEX figures, Psylocke, of course, comes with her own stand. And now for size comparison, here she is beside Mezco 1/12 Wonder Woman and MAFEX DC Cyborg Superman. Here she is beside Hasbro Marvel Legends Elektra and Hand Ninja. Here she is beside Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series Python Patrol Vipra and Snake Eyes. Here she is beside Valaverse Action Force Warpath Eclipse and Desert Rat. Here she is beside Lanyard Toys City Hunter Predator and Xenomorph Drone. And finally, as always, here she is beside NECA Toys, Dungeons & Dragons, Warduke, and Grimsword. So I know earlier in this video that I had mentioned Jim Lee, and I think I briefly talked about his influence and his work on Psylocke during this era, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring to attention that, Chris Claremont had a lot to do with it as well. However, I really feel like it was Jim Lee's run on X-Men Volume 2 that really made this character just really stand out and sort of take center stage a lot of times during the story arcs. Now, as for this figure, I can't say enough good stuff about this. The articulation is so smooth. It feels like it just wants to go into these poses that you can put her in. But I thought the same thing about the MAFEX Cyborg Superman as well, that the joints are so smooth, they're seemingly frictionless, yet they hold position so well, and they really, really do well getting down into like those really dynamic superhero poses. I do wish that they had thigh cuts. I really do. I'm not a big fan of like that hip joint, that ball joint. I've said this before. I'll say it again. As a matter of fact, I think I've said it before in this video. Nobody does it better than NECA. And between Cyborg Superman and Psylocke here, there's very little movement in those hips. Other than that, I love everything about Psylocke right here. I love the figure. I love the face sculpts. I love the accessories. I love her power effects. I'm still curious as to why that one is a separate piece and hand when the other two are just like hands molded into the effects. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's cool. And cool is the name of the game, especially when we're talking about ninja. And that's what she is in this, guys. Whether it's body swapped Betty or whether it's Quanon, she's a ninja. She's a hand ninja. And you better believe that the reason I wanted her and where she's going to be hanging out is on the G.I. Joe shelf with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. And I can't wait to put her next to Jinx when Jinx finally comes in. That she's just going to be hanging out with the Arashikage as far as I'm concerned. As a matter of fact, that Elektra figure you saw earlier in this video, that's where Elektra hangs out too. I've said it before, I will just buy Ninja and pad out my Ninja team in G.I. Joe, and Psylocke here is no different. Now, if you want this figure for your X-Men collection, you saw how she sizes up with the Hand Ninja, the Marvel Legends themselves, and how she sized up with Elektra, that not being a big collector of Marvel Legends, not having a lot of Marvel Legends, I think she'd fit in very well. Odds are she's going to stand out a little bit more because of the proportions, I feel, are just better than a lot of the Hasbro sculpts. The accessories obviously are on a little bit more of a different level than the Hasbro accessories. And also there's just that shiny metallic blue to her uniform. So shiny that you may have noticed that throughout this video, there were some autofocus issues throughout the video. I really think it's mostly because of how much her uniform was reflecting my lights. For somebody who said they weren't going to be getting into expensive figures, I wanted to stick with like Hasbro and Mattel. I have turned into a big liar because now I feel like I am totally hooked on the MAFEX line. I have pre-ordered some more DC figures. Plus, I have a Mezco 1/12 Snake Eyes that we're going to be taking a look at. So I'm a big fibber. I'm starting to fall down that rabbit hole. I kind of hate myself for it, but in the same sense, these figures are kind of awesome too. And like, I get why people get things like this to supplement their collection. Not so much that they just collect all of these high-end stuff, but I definitely get why they get these to like supplement what they already have. This is a reissue. I don't know how she compares to the original one. I never had the original one. I'm guessing this is pretty much exactly the same figure. I'm guessing. If anybody has the original release, if there are any differences, please let me know. Comment down below. And while you're down there, go ahead and do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe if you're new to the channel and you like this kind of content. Also, don't forget to check me out on Ko-fi, where for $1 a month you can get early access, you can get access to exclusive content, and other member benefits. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.